All right, this is test 4 review for intermediate algebra. I'm going to work through your problems. So the first part says find the numerical value of each rational expression for A, x equals -2, and B, x equals 4. So this is just straight plug in. So your expression is x squared over x minus 5. So in the place of x, I'm going to plug in a -2, and I'm showing that by putting it in parentheses. So you're going to say -2 squared will give you a +4, and then this is -2 minus 5, which you add, that's -7, and 4 over 7 doesn't reduce, so your answer is just -4/7. If you allow your x to be, and this is for A, if you allow your x to be 4 into this exact same expression, I have 4 squared over 4 minus 5. And I just like to put what I plug in parentheses. But that just gives us 16 over 4 minus 5 is a -1. And that just reduces to -16. Very simple. Just plug in, and you can plug this directly into your calculator. Okay. On number 2, our expression is 4x minus 3 over 5x plus 2. And we're going to allow x to be -2. So where x is, we're going to stick -2. And so that would give us multiplication. -2 times 4 is a -8, minus 3 on top. And then 5 times -2 is -10, then plus 2 on the bottom. So -8 minus 3 will give us a -11. -10 plus 2 is -8. And 11 over 8 doesn't reduce, but we will make that positive 11/8. And then for B, we're going to let x be 4. So I'm just going to stick 4 in. And there we have 4 times 4 is 16, minus 3 over 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 2. So 16 minus 3 will give us 13 on top. 20 plus 2 is 22. And 13 over 22 does not reduce. So that's just simply plug in that number and reduce your fraction if you can. The next part says find any values of the variable for which each rational expression is undefined. So these are the ones where we're only focusing on the denominator, okay? And when I say denominator, I'm talking about the bottom. I want to know what will give me that 0. I cannot let that bottom equal 0, so I need to know what would give me a 0. So on number 3, you got x minus 3 on the bottom. So that means x can't be +3. You can't let x be +3. Um, on number 4, and I'm not even focusing what's on top. The bottom is 4x plus 3. Now, if you cannot see what that is, you come over to the side and set it to 0. That way you'll know what will make you have a 0. And so that's just simply subtracting 3 divided by 4. That means x can't be a -3/4. Because if I let x be -3/4, that would give me a 0 on the bottom. And right now, that's what I'm looking for. What will give me that 0. In other words, it can't equal that number. So x cannot equal negative 3/4. On number 5, you have on the bottom x squared minus 121. Now, that we should know is the difference of squares. That would factor into x plus 11 and x minus 11. So there are two numbers. X can't equal negative 11 and it can't be positive 11, okay? So look for the things that can be factored. You would need to do those first and then tell me the opposite of what it cannot equal. Number 6, you have just whole number 2 on the bottom. And keep in mind, all of the problem is having x on the bottom. If x is on the bottom, then you have that chance of getting a 0. And so if you just have a whole number on the bottom, then that 2 is never going to change to 0. So the answer you would tell me here is that this is never undefined. Remember, we talked about this at the very beginning of chapter 7. You would just say it's never undefined. This one does not have a number that will make my bottom turn to a 0. So that would be the answer to number 6. And then number 7, you have on the bottom x squared minus 2x minus 3. You have a trinomial on the bottom. So you do know we would need to factor this first. X is in the front. We are subtracting to get 2. So our only option would be 3 and 1. And since my 2 is negative, I'm going to need a negative on my 3 and a positive 1. So if you can't see, you would actually set each parenthesis to 0. And that's really what you're doing, to see what two numbers will make me have a 0. So I know that x can't equal negative 1 and it can't equal positive 3 because those two numbers will make that bottom turn to 0. The next part you have, it says write each rational expression in lowest terms. So I told you guys you're going to, probably be presented with any type of factoring method. You got to be able to recognize it and be able to reduce it. Now, number 8 is just simply reducing the fraction and knowing how to reduce your exponents. Okay, so that's kind of taking us back a couple lessons. But if you were to reduce 5 over 15, that would reduce to 1 over 3. And then you would simply take your x's, their top and bottom, and the rule says that you're going to subtract. So that would give me 1x left on the bottom because 4 is bigger than 3, and it's on the bottom. So my x to the first power would go to the bottom. And then I would do the exact same thing with my Y's. They're in top and bottom. When I use the term top and bottom, I'm talking about division. That means you're going to subtract the actual exponents. So again, you got 3 and you have a 2, so that's going to leave me with a 1. But this time it's on top because 3 is bigger than 2. So your answer would be 1y over 3x, or you could simply just say y over 3x. Number 9, you have 64x to the third plus 27 over 16x squared minus 9. Now that's a sum of cubes on top and difference of squares on the bottom. So we're going to factor. That top is going to factor into the roots, which would be the cube root of 64 is 4. Bring down the x, bring down the plus sign, and the cube root of 27 is 3. Okay, now that's on your chart, your yellow sheet. And then you're going to do square multiply square to get the terms of the second parenthesis. So when you square just simply means I'm going to say 4x times 4x. That's going to give me 16x squared. So that's your first term. Multiply means I'm going to multiply 4x times 3. That's just simply going to give me 12x. So that's your middle term. And then square, the last term, means 3 times 3. And that is just simply 9. Now, the rule for your signs, if you're doing the sum of cubes, then your negative must go on that middle term. You can only have one negative. The back number, the last term, will always be positive. So that's just the factoring of the top polynomial, that cube. Now let's do the factoring of the bottom, which is nothing but the difference of squares. So that factors into 4x and 4x at the front, 3 and 3 at the back, and one positive and one negative. That's the difference of squares. And so what cancels would be the 4x plus 3. So we're left with 16x squared minus 12x plus 9 over 4x minus 3. That's your answer. So please be aware, you will have a cube on the test. So you need to make sure you understand how to do square multiply square to get this second parenthesis. Okay. Number 10, 4p squared plus 8pq minus 5q squared over 10p squared minus 3pq minus q squared. This is nothing but factoring trinomials. Now you have a lot of variables going on. So I would simply draw my 2 parentheses on top, my 2 parentheses on the bottom. And then I notice I got p squares in the front and I got q squares in the back. And that's on the top one and on the bottom one. So you might want to go ahead and stick your p's kind of in the front, q's in the back. Leave a little room in the front because you got a front number, and my q's in the back. That way I won't forget to put them in there. And I always have students do that on tests, and I have to take off because that's part of your answer, your variables. So on the top, we're going to look at that last sign. We are subtracting to get 8. So in the back, I have a 5. So that's going to be my only option is 5 and 1. Now with 4, your options are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. And I hope that you would see that we're going to use 2 and 2. Because if you check your out, and I recommend that, check your outside inside, that gives me 10 and 2. And if I subtract, that would give me 8. So my 8 is positive. So you need to make sure that that 10 is positive and your 2 is negative. Then on the bottom, we are subtracting to get that 3. And so on the back, you only have a 1 in front of that Q. So I would go ahead and just put 1s in there so I know I got my number taken care of in the back. Now with 10, you got 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. And I hope that you see we're going to use 2 and 5 because we're trying to get 3. So I'm going to just stick in 2 and 5 in the front. And again, you want to check that outside, inside. My outside is 2PQ. My inside is 5PQ. And if you subtract, that will give me 3. My 3 is negative, so make sure you got a negative 5 and a positive, a negative 5 and a positive 2. Okay, and so once you put that negative on 5, positive on 2, and then we're going to look at to see, okay, who cancels? That would be my 2p minus q. And so I'm left with on top 2p plus 5q over 5p plus q. Okay, the next part, we have multiply or divide. Write each answer in lowest terms. So on number 11, we have 2x plus 3 over x minus 4 times x squared minus 16 over 6x plus 9. So we're going to reduce where we can. On this first fraction, there's nothing to reduce, so I just rewrite it. But here on the top of that second one, that's the difference of squares. So that's x plus 4 and x minus 4. And then on the bottom, that's GCF. So we can take out a 3, and we're left with 2x plus 3. And so who cancels? We got our 2x plus 3 cancels, and then x minus 4 cancels. So we have x plus 4 over 3. 12, we have x squared minus 6x plus 8 over x squared plus 3x minus 18 divided by x minus 4 over x plus 6. So keep in mind with division, you must flip that second one, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and factor this first fraction, and it's trinomials. So it's just straight factoring. On the top, we are adding to get that negative 6. So we're going to have 4 and 2, and both of them negative. On the bottom, we are subtracting to get 3. So we're going to use 6 and 3. And our 6 will be positive, 3 will be negative. Change it to multiplication. Bring the x plus 6 on top. And take the x minus 4 to the bottom. And then we have x minus 4 to cancel. X plus 6 to cancel. So we're left with x minus 2 over x minus 3 as our answer. 13, 2x squared plus 13x plus 20 over x squared plus x minus 12 times x squared plus 2x minus 15 over 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. Now, this is all just trinomials on each top and bottom. So we're going to just go ahead and set up my parentheses. And so on top, we are adding to get that 13. So we're going to have 2x and x. And then with 20, you have some options, but we're going to use 4 and 5. And you know 4 has to be in the parentheses with the x. It can't be in the parentheses with 2. And so that would make 8x and 5x is 13 when you add, and both of them positive. On the bottom, we are subtracting to get that understood 1. So we got x and x, and we're going to use 4 and 3. And we're going to have a positive 4 and a negative 3. On the top of the second one, we are subtracting to get that 2. So I got x and x in the front. I'm going to use 5 and 3. And my 5 is going to be positive. 3 is going to be negative. And then on the bottom, we're adding to get that 7. So we're going to have 2x and x in the front. We're going to do 5 and 1. And both of them are going to be positive. So take your time, check your outside, inside to make sure you got your signs and everything correct. So who cancels? The 2x plus 5s cancel. The x plus 4s cancel. X minus 3 cancels. So we're left with on top x plus 5 over x plus 1. Number 14, we have 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 over 9x squared minus 1 divided by x squared plus 5x plus 6 over 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. And again, you do know with division, just want to make sure I continue to reiterate that. You're going to have to flip that second one. So I have 3 trinomials and 1 difference of square. So on the top, this one is the trinomial. We are subtracting to get 5. And so we got 3x and x. And we're going to do 2 and 1. And I put that in the wrong spot, working too fast. You got 2 and 1 here because we got 6 and 1 to make that 5. And that's going to give us a positive 6 and a negative 1. On the bottom, we got the difference of squares. So that would be 3x plus 1 and 3x minus 1. Change to multiplication. And now my bottom is my top. So this is adding to get that 6, and we're going to do 3x and 3x, 1 and 1, and both of them positive. And then on the top, we are adding to get 5. We got x and x, and we're going to do 2 and 3, and 5 is positive, so they're both positive. So now we cancel. Our 3x minus 1s are going to cancel. And then our 3x plus 1s will cancel. And then x plus 2 will cancel. So I'm left with, on top, 3x plus 1 over x plus 3. All right, the next section is finding the LCD. So we're just looking at the denominator. I just want to know the LCD. So on number 15, I'm not going to even write the tops. They're not important right now. I'm just simply wanting to know, out of these denominators, what would be my least common denominator. So with 9, 3, and 27, it has to be at least 27. So that it has to be, that's the biggest number down there. So 9 and 7 do go into 27. So we're going to have 27 as our number. And with our variables, you know you must use the bigger one, which would be y to the 4th. So our LCD would be 27y to the 4th. On 16, we have on the bottoms x squared plus 4x plus 3, x squared plus 5x plus 4, and x squared plus 7x plus 12. And again, I'm only concerned with getting that least common denominator, so the top is not even important. But all three of these fractions have a trinomial on the bottom, so we're going to have to factor. So this one, the first one, will factor into x plus 3 and x plus 1. The middle one will factor into x plus 4 and x plus 1. And the last one will factor into x plus 4 and x plus 3. So keep in mind that LCD has to be a combination of everybody. It's got to represent each one of your fractions. So we're going to have the x plus 3, we got x plus 1, and then we also have x plus 4. So that would be my LCD. Now the last section, 17 through 20, is utilizing getting that LCD to add and subtract the fractions. So on number 17, we got 2x minus 6 over 4 plus x plus 5 over 6. So our least common denominator would be, when you have 4 and you have 6, we could use 12. So that's going to be our common denominator is 12. So we're going to divide 4 into 12, which is 3. And then you're going to multiply 3 by that entire top. So that's going to give us 6x minus 18. We're going to do the same thing on the second fraction. We're going to divide 6 into 12, which is 2. And then we're going to multiply that entire top by 2. So that would give us 2x plus 10. And since we're adding, we're just going to combine like terms. So the 6x plus the 2x would make 8x. And then negative 18 plus 10 would make a negative 8 over 12. So this, you got to look at it to see, okay, is there anything I can do to reduce it? And so on top, we can take off an 8. And that would leave us with x minus 1 over 12. And then you can reduce 8 and 12. They both reduce by 4. 4 will go into 8 2 times, and it will go into 12 3 times. So our final answer would be 2 times x minus 1 in parentheses all over 3. Number 18, we have x plus 2 over 5x minus 6x plus 3 over 3x. So we got x plus 2 over that 5x and minus that 6x plus 3 over 3x. And honestly, I would put that in parentheses since this is a subtraction. I don't want you to mess up on your signs. And so we got 5x and 3x. Our least common denominator would be 15x. So we're going to divide 5x into 15x. Remember, the x's cancel. And so we're just left with 3. So you're going to multiply 3 by that entire top, which will give us 3x plus 6. And then we'll do the same with the second fraction. 3x will go into 15x. You know the x's cancel, which will be 5 times. And you're going to multiply this top by 5. Now, I need you to see that this is really negative 5 that you're going to multiply by. So kind of look at that as negative 5 because it's the minus already out here. So negative 5 times 6x is a negative 30x. And negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then you're going to combine. 3x minus 30x will give you a negative 27x. And then 6 minus 15 is a negative 9 over 15x. So when you look at negative 27x minus 9 over 15x, on the top, you can take off a negative 9, and that will leave us with a positive 3x plus 1 over 15x. And then negative 9 and 15 can reduce. They reduce by 3. So 3 will go into negative 9 a negative 3 times, and 3 will go into 15 5 times. So our final answer would be negative 3 times 3x plus 1 over 5x. All right, 19. 5 over a minus 2b plus 2 over a plus 2b. So our common denominator is going to be both a plus 2b and a minus 2b. Okay, you got to use both of them. Okay. So keep in mind the one, when you do this division, it's the one that's the same cancels. So the one that is not there, that they don't have, is the one that you're going to take to the top. So we're going to multiply 5 times the a plus 2b. So when you distribute that, that gives you 5a plus 10b. And then on the second fraction, the a plus 2b's cancel. So I'm going to take the a minus 2b to the top. So when you distribute that 2, that gives you 2a minus 4b. And so when you combine, you have 5a plus 2a. That's going to give us 7a. 10b minus 4b is a positive 6b over your denominator, which is a minus 2b times a plus 2b. And it's nothing you can do to that top, so that's just your answer. And 20. 8 over x squared plus 6x minus 3 over x squared plus 4x minus 12. So we're going to look at our denominators. On this first one, we can factor off an x. And that will give me x plus 6 left. And on the second one, this one factors into x and x in the front, because you know we're subtracting to get that 4. And we're going to use 6 and 2, where my 6 is positive and my 2 is negative. So my least common denominator will be a combination of everybody. So I got to have x, I got to have the x plus 6, and I also have the x minus 2. Okay? So when we do our dividing, the x and the x plus 6 cancel. So I'm going to multiply 8 by x minus 2. And that would give us 8x minus 16. And then on the second one, when you divide, the x plus 6 and the x minus 2 cancels. It doesn't have this little x. So you're going to take x to the top, and keep in mind, watch these signs. This is a negative 3. So that's going to be a negative 3x. So when you combine 8x minus 3x, you just have 5x. Bring down my negative 16 over x times x plus 6 times x minus 2. And there's nothing you can do to that top, so that's your answer. Now this test will have problems very similar to this review sheet. I'm just going to go through and switch up some numbers. You're going to have to make sure you got that factoring down pat, because I'm using factoring pretty much in every section almost, besides the first two problems. So you can have a difference of square, you can have a trinomial, you can have just a straight up cube. It could be anything. GCF. You got to be able to recognize all of your factoring. So this is your review. I would play this again, rework that review sheet. I would make sure that I can do everything on that review sheet. That way you know that you're prepared for the test. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And I will, do my best in responding back. If I need to work something out, I will try to work it and send a picture of my work. Or we could set up some type of Zoom time where I can actually, show, you can see me working out the problem. But this is your review for test 4.